Welcome to our webinar today, Make Your Mark, Trademarks, presented by Anne Kuipers, State Publications Librarian at the Wyoming State Library. My name is Paige Bradenkamp. I'm the e-resources and school library consultant here at the Wyoming State Library, and I will be facilitating today's presentation. The Wyoming State Library has a suite of digital collections, which includes Wyoming Trademarks, an index of Wyoming state trademarks issued from 1906 to the present. Anne will share more about that collection and how it can be useful, as well as trademark resources at the federal level. Whether you're interested because of a personal goal, or you are an educator looking for real-world resources, there's something for everyone in this presentation. And now I'll turn it over to Anne Kuipers to introduce herself and show us how to navigate the world of trademarks.
Good morning, I'm Anne Kuipers. I'm the State Publications Librarian and also the Patent and Trademark Resource Center representative for the state of Wyoming. So I help everyone who is looking for information on patents and trademarks. Just a little disclaimer before we start our presentation. All products, trademarks, and companies mentioned in this presentation are for illustrative and educational purposes only. No rights or endorsements are claimed by the Wyoming State Library or any of our affiliates. So to start off this presentation, we're going to have to just do a little bit of a quick understanding on what is intellectual property. The USPTO describes intellectual properties as creations of the mind. So creative works or ideas embodied in a form that can be shared or enabled by others to recreate, emulate, or manufacture them. So basically anything that you come up with that is very much intellectual and not physical. So for instance, this can include patents, which is an idea, design, invention, or process, trade secrets, which is a formula, practice, process, or design that you keep secret and therefore gain protection from that, or copyright, which protects literary, dramatic, musical, artistic, or theatrical products. So what is a trademark? A trademark is a word, name, symbol, or device that differentiates a product or service from all others. So it's basically what you use in business or in a nonprofit sense to recognize either a product or a service that you're doing. A good trademark is distinctive, unique, and instantly recognizable. For instance, these three down here, I'm pretty certain that everyone in the world can probably recognize what these are, or at least in the US can recognize what these are. So there's going to be different types of trademarks, and the trademark collection that we have is going to primarily have the following. So there's what's called a word mark, which is a word that represents a company or a product or an idea. So this is going to be like Google's a good example of that. McDonald's is another. Target, in the sense of using it for a large business purpose. Then you also have things that are image marks, which are images that automatically make you think of something. Even though this is a pretty old trademark, you automatically can look at this and know that that's for Windows. And then there's a word and an image mark, which involves the two of them combined. So these three types of marks are the type of marks that you typically will find in the Wyoming state trademarks. The next couple will be found mainly on the federal level. You can trademark scent. So in the case of Play-Doh, the scent for Play-Doh is trademarked. Another example of this would be Chanel No. 5 is a trademark scent. So no one else can use these in business to represent their product. We also have a sound. Sound trademarks are also possible. So the NBC is a trademarked sound. No one else can use that sound in business to represent an advertising or a entertainment agency. You can also trademark color, such as this, the T-Mobile pink. Tiffany blue is another trademark, and UPS brown, the color of their uniforms, is a trademarked color. The final type of trademark that you can get is a configuration trademark, also known as trade dress, and that's for how something is appearing in business. So for instance, ring pops, the style and shape of the ring pop is trademarked. No one else can make a candy that looks like a ring pop without being sued by the Ring Pop Corporation. Another example of this would be the shape of a Jack Daniel's bottle. They recently went to the Supreme Court over a trademark infringement that was partially based off of the bottle design. So part of this presentation is talking about preparing for registration. That's the most likely use you're going to have for the Wyoming Trademarks collection. We do include historical trademarks, but the majority of people who come to use the collection are looking to make sure that their trademark isn't already being used. So you have to decide what level of protection that you need. You have to ensure that your trademark is able to be accepted by an authorizing agent. So in the case of a state trademark, that would be the state of Wyoming, or in a federal trademark, that would be for the federal government, the United States Patent and Trademark Office, the USPTO. And to get a trademark and to make sure that it's able to be accepted, you do need to perform a trademark search, which is the main reason why people will be using the Wyoming State Trademark Database. And then you have to determine what the class or classes you want protection in. So trademarks are only protected in very specific areas. So in the case of, let's go back to the ring pop example, they typically would only protect in foodstuffs or candy. And there are different levels of trademark protection as well. The first type of protection is the common law trademark. The rights are gained through the use of the trademark and there's no registration needed. They're called common law trademarks and they're granted through the use of TM on the image or logo after making sure you're not infringing on others. So basically, as long as you're using something in business, you have a common law trademark. However, protection is dependent upon your own policing of the trademark. You'll need to contact those who infringe on your trademark and you can send a cease and desist. You have no right to any sort of infringement damages. You're able to sue, but at the same time, it's free as long as you're continuing to use your logo or your trademark in general. The second type of trademark protection is at the state level. This protection is only within the state of registration, and in Wyoming, you register with the Wyoming Secretary of State's office. State trademarks have protection only within the borders of the state the trademark is registered in. So as long as it's business being done in the state of Wyoming, you have exclusive use within the state of Wyoming. It is $100 registration fee, and it requires the current use of the trademark, and you'll have to renew your registration every 5 years. To apply for a state trademark, you have to fill out a form. It's a pretty simple one. I have it up on the screen. You'll need to provide a written description of the trademark or your service mark, basic business information, the class that you're going to be protected in, and then you're going to have to get it notarized by a notary in the state of Wyoming, and you just mail it in with your application fee. And usually you're within about 10 to 15 days, you've received your state trademark. And then the final level of trademark protection that we have is a federal trademark. This is a presumption of ownership nationwide. You do need to register with the United States Patent and Trademark Office for this. They're protected throughout the United States, and then U.S. Border Patrol will block the importation of counterfeit goods. A lot of the counterfeit goods that you do find, like like market stalls in New York, they're just enough difference that they can be changed, although the government is constantly trying to crack down on those. It is required to file, it is required to have a federal trademark to file any sort of federal infringement suits. And the cost for that is going to be $250 to $350 per class. You have to have them currently used, and they have to be renewed every 5 years. And then additional fees for additional services or appeals as you go through the process. One of the lovely things about trademarks is, unlike other types of intellectual property protection, trademarks can go on indefinitely. There's no firm cutoff date. As long as you're using a trademark, you'll have protection on it. So applying for a federal trademark, it's done online. It costs between $250 and $350 per class. So they've got 2 different types of forms, and one of them they prefer so that they take off $100. So go with that option if you're applying. It will require a USPTO.gov account. You will need to apply. You do need to have a form of valid ID, typically a driver's license. You apply through the Trademark Electronic Application System. Filing for federal trademarks is done completely online. There are no refunds for refused or abandoned applications. To prevent any sort of refusal, to prevent the loss of money, you should always respond to the USPTO emails and fix any items that may be refused or corrected. So now let's go over what is required to have a trademark registration. You need to be distinctive. A customer needs to easily recognize your trademark as something connected to your business. You need to be able to look at those golden arches and immediately think McDonald's. It has to be in use. You currently have to be using it to be able to have it trademarked. That's why when you look at a lot of Disney products, they have a lot of different trademarks in use, so that they have protection over those various different things. For instance, just as Steamboat Willie was going into the public domain, Disney decided to start using the old Mickey Mouse as a trademark to protect certain items that they're selling. And then a trademark also has to be acceptable. It has to not violate any regulations or infringe on any other trademark rights. So one of the things about trademarks is obviously you want to have it be distinctive. If it's too close to another trademark that's currently registered, you will be denied, because there's the likelihood of what they call the likelihood of confusion, that you would think that what you're selling is from a different company entirely. So to apply for a trademark and make sure that your trademark is distinctive, you need to do a trademark search. The first step on this is always to just do a basic Google or other online database search to make sure that there's nothing that looks very similar. And then you're going to go into both the federal trademark collection and then the Wyoming Trademarks Digital Collection as well, to make sure there's nothing similar to what you're doing. So to access the USPTO side of things, so the federal side, you go to uspto.gov and then right here, find it fast, and you go to trademark search. This is where you'll find a really, well, it's a relatively complex database. So if you have any additional questions on how to search through this, you can always contact me and I will walk you through it. It is a lot easier than it was previously, but it's still, if you type in a relatively, just a word search, you're just looking for everything that has unicorns in it, you'll get 6,625 results for unicorns. So it will do basic word searches, but if you ever have interest in going in a little bit more in depth on this, I would recommend contacting me on that. And now for the meat of what we're doing today, we're going to go look into the Wyoming Trademarks Digital Collection. So if you go to either the Wyoming State Library site, you can go into Collections, the Wyoming Digital Collection Suite, and go all the way down. This beautiful orange right here is the Wyoming Trademarks Collection. So you can visit the website. We've got search help, resources, facts, and then contact us button, which will have my contact information. So if you have any need to look through and find something in the collection, that's where you go. And you just click search or browse Wyoming State Trademarks. So for trademarks, we automatically open up to the filters tab. This is where you'll probably want to go. You can search for a word mark. So if you want to see if there are any unicorns in the Wyoming Trademark Collection, you can see that there was just one that had unicorn as part of its word mark. You can see unicorn dairy ration. You'll have the word mark itself, the applicant name, the description of the mark, and then you'll also have the mark type over here, which will tell you that it's a word and a design. In just design marks, so marks without any words, the word mark will have it not applicable or no word mark. And it will also contain the application number, which will tell us that this was a trademark that was applied for in 1919. And you can see that the goods and services class code, so what area it's in, is class 46, which is foods and ingredients of foods. You go down to design category major, that would be an animal. And then we also have minor design categories that will describe other aspects of the trademark that might be of interest to search. So the first word starts with the letter U, the second starts with the letter D, and so forth. And then you can also see the status that this is an inactive trademark. It has not been used. If you click on the title of the trademark, you'll find the full trademark application. You can see that we have all of the information. This was not renewed, so it was done in 1919 and was never renewed after that. If you want to clear your search, you just go up here to the big red X, clear your search, and you can find other ways of searching on the filter side. So if you're looking for a trademark that was done in a particular year, you can just type into the application number of the year, because all application numbers start with the year that they were issued, and then we'll have a new number after it that will tell you what number of trademark it was. So you can just push enter and you'll see that all of the different trademarks that were issued in 2023. You can go up to the grid view and it will give you more detailed information, or my favorite, you can go to the thumbnail and you'll see thumbnails of every single trademark that was issued. For items that are just words, you'll find them in just black text. And for things that are word and image or just image marks, you'll see the full image of what it is. So for instance, this one just has the bison. There's no words included on it. As you're searching for things that may or may not be infringing on your mark, you can go to the goods and services class code. So you can find, we'll go down to foods and ingredients of foods and update the search filters, and we'll find all of the different trademarks that are for food items. You'll see that there's a lot of word marks in here. And so if you're just wanting to look for a specific type of mark, so you're just looking for an image, you can go to design only and update the search filters again, and you'll get all of the images that are included under the class code of foods and ingredients of foods. If you're looking for things that are active, so things that are currently being protected by the state of Wyoming, you can go down to status. It's way down at the bottom of the filters tab. Click active and then update the search filters. And you can see all of the design marks that are currently active in the state of Wyoming. And if you just get rid of design only, you'll see that we have 44 different active marks for foods and ingredients of foods. Ingredients of foods. If you're looking for, we clear it again. If you're looking for all of the different active marks that have, we'll just do domestic animals in it. We go design category major, animals. We'll have a full list of every single type of design category available. So we're just going to look for all of the different bird marks that we have that are active in the state of Wyoming. To do that, you go into design category major, animal, bird and fowl, and then status active. And we can see all of the different trademarks that are currently for animals that have birds as their main image that are active. Most of our collection is going to be including historical trademarks. You will want to search those when you're doing a trademark search just to see what's out there. A lot of the trademarks that we have in our collection started out as state trademarks and then moved to the federal level, and they just let their protection of the state trademark lapse. So typically people will apply for the state trademark, often multiple states as they're starting out with their business, and then move on to a federal trademark once they've established themselves. The federal level typically does require a lawyer involved, and so the state definitely does not. So when you get to the federal level, you're usually a little bit further into your business. Let's see, is there anything? Additionally, if you're looking for something that was applied by a very specific corporation, you can type in the applicant name. So if we're looking currently for all of the different trademarks that Chevron has in the state of Wyoming, they have filed 15 trademarks over the course of time, and only one of them is currently active under the name of Chevron as their business. They do have more active in the state. They just changed their mega corporation name. So that's the basics of how you access the digital collection. You can also go into browse and browse directly by trademarks, by goods and services. Usually if you're knowing what you're looking for, it's better to go into the filters, because this is definitely a little bit more difficult to navigate. So you can see for electrical applications, machines and supplies, it's not going to show anything until you collect a type of design category. So then you can see that these are all of the electrical machines with ovals as their main design. If you go back, click out, you can also search by design type. So you can see how many design only, words only, design, words and design marks we have, but then you'll have to go through and choose a class code and a design code, and you'll get all of those. So I would definitely recommend going through what automatically populates with the filters category. So going back to the presentation, click out of all of these. We're going to talk a little bit about why trademarks might be denied. So most of these will follow on a federal level. In the state of Wyoming, usually as long as you're not infringing on someone else's right, you can get a trademark, but there are some reasons why you'll get denied at a federal level that aren't as apparent. So the first reason is likelihood of confusion. That's the most likely reason you're going to get your trademark denied. And that's going to be for anything that has similarity with active trademarks in the class. So for instance, the Wyoming State Library has the Wildcat trademark, and anything that's similar but spelled slightly differently will be denied at the federal level. So if you wanted to get Wildcat without the Y and you change the C to a K, that will be automatically denied at a federal level. Probably also at the state level as well. If you're going to just take a portion of an image design and have an exact replica, or a portion of a word and image design and use it as just a design mark, that will also be denied if it's exactly the same. Changing words, so changing cat to kitten, will get you denied at the federal level. Going into a different language, so this is the Spanish version of wildcat with traditional Spanish spelling, that will also get you denied. And then if you're just changing the font on something, that will also usually result in a denial. For a likelihood of confusion denial, a trademark has to be in the same or similar class of goods and services to be denied. So for instance, in the case of, well, McDonald's is not really a great example. A lot of the larger scale items will just get denied because they're overall very well known. But if you had something in, say, food, and someone else is wanting to get something in electrical services, there's less likelihood of a denial based off of likelihood of confusion, because they're completely different classes. You're not going to expect an electrical services company to be producing food, or vice versa. It's very unlikely that you're going to think that something was produced by another company if you're in wildly different class categories. Another reason for a denial of trademarks is descriptiveness. If an item is primarily descriptive or geographically descriptive, things will be denied. This is mainly due with word marks, because when you have a word and an image mark together, you can avoid claiming certain words in a combined word and image mark. So for instance, something like Cowboy Creations, if it's cowboy, Western wear, you would deny, or you would avoid claiming the word cowboy. So I've got a few examples here. If you're a diner in Rawlins and you name yourself the Rawlins Diner, you're likely to be denied a trademark based off of the fact that you're just describing where you are and what you are. Same thing with like a Torn and Pumpkin Patch, very descriptive of what a business is. Flex Hose, slightly different spelling from like a flexible hose, but still describes what you're selling. Bread Shop, also, if you're a bakery, probably not a good idea. Same thing with Chicken Hut. If you're just selling chicken and you're a business, it's probably going to be denied. One way around this is to have been using your trademark for a long time. The longer that you have a trademark, the more likely you're going to be able to argue with the feds that you've been using it for so long, people have an association of a product or a service with your particular trademark, regardless of how descriptive it may be. Another type of denial of trademark is deceptiveness. So if it's deceptive either geographically or descriptively, if you're expecting to get one thing based off of what your trademark says and you're not getting that thing, you're likely to be denied. For instance, if you're going to call yourself New England Tartar Sauce and you're from California, it's likely that you're going to be denied, unless, of course, it was a business that had been in New England for a very long time and the odors just happen to be in California. Wyoming Fibers, if you're selling something from that was grown in Australia or raised in Australia, you're not going to be denied a trademark. Another example would be aardvark jerky. Although it is an uncommon food, I don't believe most people eat aardvarks. If you're going to be selling that on beef jerky, there's a slight assumption that it's actually a product made out of aardvark meat. And another example, which will also get you in trouble with the FDA, would be McAllister honey if you're selling a corn syrup product. You wouldn't get a trademark for it, and then the FDA would also probably tell you to stop it because it's not actually honey. Another reason for denial of trademark is surnames. Surnames can be part of a trademark if it's gained unique brand recognition, such as McDonald's, or if there's a larger portion. And non-personal names can sometimes be used without brand recognition. If you make up a last name or a character, such as like Betty Crocker, for instance, a person who does not exist, or Wendy's, which has a character associated with it, but that character is not real. So you want to make sure that trademarks have a variety in them. The final reason for denial of trademarks is the use of protected elements. These will automatically get you a refusal. Should be at the state level as well, but not always. So things like seals and flags of government agencies or states. You can't put the Wyoming State seal on an item and sell it without being part of a state agency or government entity. Statute protected items, so that's going to be the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, and the Red Crystal. Those are all protected by the Geneva Convention as signs of international medical aid. You cannot use those on any product. You also cannot use those in any sort of illustration or copyrighted material. For instance, the game Stardew Valley once had the Red Cross. They had to change it because they were being cited for a Geneva Convention violation. Additionally, you can't have living people's names, images, or signatures without consent. So if you're going to be using your own personal name or someone else that you know, you do need to have a signed letter of consent to be able to use that. For instance, Taylor Swift has her signature trademarked. However, no one else could get that trademarked if she hadn't already gotten protection. And in the case of flags, in particular, the US flag, you cannot have the full US flag in its glory presented. It has to be modified in some way. If you remember the bison from earlier that had a flag in it, it's not shown as a flag, it's a flag design in the shape of a bison. So that would gain trademark protection, but if you just have a flag on there, that usually will have you denied. The final thing we're going to go over today is trademark classification. I've mentioned this throughout the presentation, but classes what product or service a trademark protects. So they're very specific and required for both state and federal trademarks. The Wyoming uses a modified version of the US classification. It's included on the application form and it's very simple. The federal government no longer uses the US classification. Instead, we use what is called the NICE classification. It's a treaty determined class system that is applicable across countries. It's also more detailed than the US classification, not by much, but it still is. For instance, Oreo, the product falls under class 46 foodstuffs in the US classification and class 30 or staple foodstuffs of plant origin in the NICE classification. And then access to these, you can always access the uspto.gov site that will have all current and past trademarks in their trademark search. They'll also have the Trademark Trials and Appeal Board, which is called TTAB, which will detail every single type of court cases that were dealt with, any sort of office action, which is when the USPTO office contacts a registrant and says, we need you to change something, or we need you to add more information, or less information. They also will have their federal guides and manuals, which is called the Manual of Trademark Examiners Procedures, or I got that wrong. the trademark of examining procedure, sorry, which will detail every single legal aspect that an examiner will have to go through to approve or deny a trademark. As we've gone through earlier in this presentation, we do have the Wyoming Trademark Collection. That's going to be at trademarks.wyo.gov. It will contain full applications of both current and past trademarks. I would recommend going through and looking at some of the historical ones. They're very fun. And then also the Secretary of State's office. So sos.wyo.gov is where you'll find the official versions of all trademark applications, the application form, and business registration. The Secretary of State's office holds the official forms of everything. The trademark collections through the state library is an unofficial research source. It is not it's not updated quite as fast as the Secretary of State's trademark collection is. However, it is a lot easier to, it's a lot more accessible, it's a lot easier to navigate. The Secretary of State's office only has a very basic keyword search, and then you can search by very particular application numbers. So it's often recommended to go into the state library's collection, and then go into the Secretary of State's office collection. Thank you for everything. This is the basics of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions for me? Otherwise, Paige, I'll let you do some cleanup. And then credits, all images are done through the USPTO patent collection, trademark collection, the Wyoming Trademark Collection, or in public domain.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne. That was very enlightening, especially the part about how trademarks get denied. That's very interesting to learn about how some people will end up not getting a trademark or won't be able to piggyback off someone else's trademark. So anyways, I don't see anything in the chat, and feel free to unmute if you would like. But that was a very comprehensive description of trademarks, and particularly our collection at the Wyoming State Library. Just a reminder, the recording will be available on the Wyoming State Library YouTube channel, and a link will be sent to each and every one of you who registered. On that note, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Anne, for your presentation and taking the time to share that with us. And I hope you'll join us for future webinars. Have a wonderful day.